This is the Good Regardless podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Ariano. Welcome back to another episode of Good Regardless. This is episode 8, okay? We're climbing up there and things look a little different already. If you guys haven't noticed, if you're listening to this on audio and you're not watching on YouTube, you're not going to notice the difference. But pretty much, I have been revamping the studio room. I'm calling this the studio room, and I'm on this cute little new couch that I got. I got new pillows. I'm adding, a little side table, whatever that is called. I have my little succulent, my little fake plant on the side for good energy. And I'm just so excited to have this space come together. I spent all last weekend cleaning this room like crazy, and just getting it ready for the new space, for the new vibe of the podcast. And when there's a will, you guys, there's a way. I was moving stuff. Like, shout out to my cousin Bree and Mondo for helping me get this couch here. They literally helped me push this couch in. I took the other one out. I was just honestly on full cleaning mode. So I'm really excited to kind of see it come together, and I love how it looks already. I feel like it looks so good. But we've had a pretty busy week. I had a busy week with Batter House. I had an event yesterday. So if you guys don't know, I do have a mini pancake business, and I know for some of you guys, you're probably like, wait, what? Like, what is that? It's mini pancakes, and it's basically a food catering business that I started with my family when we've been doing it for over a year and a half. And you guys, it's been honestly the most rewarding experience to be able to start this small business with my family and just kind of giving us a way to not just make extra money, but like really work together as a family. It's taught us patience. We've learned so much. And I know down the line, I'm going to do a whole episode on starting a small business because there's so many avenues. I know there's so many questions when I started off, and I'm so happy that like the small business community really is here to help each other out. Like anytime I have questions or if I need, some advice, like there's so many people that I've just met because I've owned a small business that have just given me so many insightful tips. So it's just really amazing to see the journey. And I think that sometimes like when you start a business, maybe you're like, dang, like I want to be more far ahead. But this weekend, I really just sat back and looked at it and I was like, wow, like we're really here. Like just from the conceptual thought of, hey, I want to do this to everything that it took to kind of be up and running, buying stuff, the branding, everything that had to happen in order for us to be even able to go and do events. It's like a whole big thing. And I feel like sometimes we forget about that process. Like we did an event, you guys, and it was just second nature to us. And I love that because before when we would do events, we would be so stressed. We'd be fighting with each other. We would be all over the place. And now we just kind of have it down to a science almost. I mean, we're still figuring things out, but it's just gotten a lot easier. And it's just really nice to feel like, you've progressed in whatever it is that you do. And obviously this podcast space is another area of where I feel like I've progressed because, started off with that little couch. Now I'm adding my new couch, it's just getting better as we go along. I love that. So today's episode, we're going to do a really fun episode. I'm going to take you guys back. We're taking it back to down memory lane to 2018, which was the year that I studied abroad. Such a transformative year for me, you guys. Like, study abroad was for sure one of the most impactful things that I had ever done at that time. And even now, honestly, it shaped me so much. So I'm so excited to kind of give you guys an insight scoop of what that looked like, what it took to kind of get out there, my experience. Is it worth it? Because obviously it's a lot of money. And I'm just going to give you guys all the tea. But before we do all that, we're going to get into the questions. Ask less. You guys have really been coming through for your girl with these questions. And I don't have them on my phone today. I wrote them in my notes. So I'm over here looking to the side. But the first question that I got asked via DM from actually a male listener. This is for the kings, okay? He asked me how to move on from a situationship / stop being Delulu. So it seems like this guy right here is dating someone that he knows is probably not someone that he should be dating. He's in a situationship with a woman. And how do you stop from putting yourself in that situationship? You need to rip the Band-Aid off. quick, okay? Like when you know that someone isn't for you, but you're continuing to be around them because you know you're just like comfortable, or maybe, you know, you just are scared to go back out there, you are basically stopping the inevitable from happening. You already know that you're gonna not be with this person. So the longer that you wait, for me, that would give me anxiety because I just feel like you're prolonging something that's gonna happen. Like you're not gonna be with this person. So might as well just rip the Band-Aid off, because when you rip the Band-Aid off and you remove yourself from this situationship, you can heal quicker and you can get over this person quicker. I feel like when it comes to situationships, because I know you're not the only guy that deals with this. I'm sure there's so many women out there that are in relationships. It could be with someone that they're not even significantly with, like there's not a title. It could be someone that you're dating just, you know, casually. It can be someone that you are actually with, a boyfriend or girlfriend, and you know, it's just not going anywhere. We stay in situationships because we focus more on the what ifs than what is. You guys, not you guys, because we've all done this before, but you know, we focus on the potential of someone, of how a person can change. We try to focus on, oh, but they did this one nice thing for me this one time and I felt good during this era. You know, we focus on what if, you know, I stay with them and, you know, we work on this and it gets better. One thing I've learned is you cannot make people change. That is something that they have to do on their own. There's nothing that you can say or do that's going to make a person want to be with you for real, take you seriously. That's something that has to come from them. And I feel like, you know, I've definitely been in a situationship before, but I feel that it is important to not stay in that situation for a long time. Like if you know you're in a situationship and it's been more than 4 months, it's time to go. Okay. Like these year-long situationships, 8 months, like it's just not going anywhere. And not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting the opportunity for you to heal from the situation. You know, I do think that there are certain instances that, you know, maybe you're with someone and it's a little rocking, you're trying to figure it out. I know that when you first start dating someone, it takes a lot of, you know, figuring each other out. It takes a lot of work. And obviously it's not always the best start. And I think that deep down inside, you know who you're willing to fight for. Like I even think about my relationship with Rich when we were first starting to date. I guess you can kind of say we were in a situationship, but I think what differentiated us is we had developed a really solid foundation in our friendship. And I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but there was a period of my time with Rich, right, where we were like kind of dating, trying to figure it out. It was kind of confusing for us because we were really good friends before we were ever anything like intimate, romantic, whatever, right? So I remember we had gone on this date. He took me to Camelot in Orange County, and then we went bowling. This is like old back then. This is probably like 2017, 2016. Was it 2016? We've been together for a minute. We've been together for 7-8 years now. So it was just a while back ago. We Ubered to mini golf and to Camelot. And mind you, this was during the time where I feel like we both didn't know what it was. Like we were just like, we're kind of friends. Like, is this kind of awkward? Like what's going on here? And I thought the date went really well. Like we were kissing, you know, we were like playing a little mini golf. Like it was a vibe. And it's so crazy. I'm going to give you guys the inside scoop, but pretty much I had a party at my house. I think like a week after that. And pretty much Richard told me that he didn't feel anything kind of romantic for me at that time. He was just like, oh, I'm glad that we went on the date, but I don't want to take it any further. And I don't really remember because I was intoxicated when we had this conversation. And just know that after that conversation, everything went downhill. I kicked him out of my house. It was like a whole big old thing. This was back then, you guys. You know, obviously this was messy-less. And I remember, to be honest, I feel like when it comes to men, I've always known my worth. So as soon as he told me that, I was like, okay, like I'm not going to be an option for you. If you don't know that you like me, then that's fine. Like, okay, I can accept that. And right after that, you guys, I was like, done. Situationship done. This is it. And it took a second, like maybe a couple days of me being sad, but I'm not going to, you know, put myself in a situation, and you shouldn't put yourself in a situation where you feel like you're an option. Okay. And I'm glad that it's funny that we have that story, but once that occurred, I actually went to Vegas, and I think it was a week of me being like, all right, cool, you don't like me, that's fine, I'm gonna keep it pushing. He immediately realized, oh, I cannot let this girl go. She's actually someone that I like. And I think he was just, I don't know what was going through his head. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he just didn't want to ruin the friendship. I don't know. But, I think that sometimes when you take yourself out of a situationship, you're leaving the ball in the other person's court. Either you're going to step up or you're going to step to the side. You decide what you want to do, but I'm out. And, I think for you, in order to stop being Delulu, just know that if it doesn't work out with this person, then it wasn't meant for it to work out with this person. And you're going to find someone out there that truly values you and where maybe it's not going to be so difficult all the time. I think, we sometimes stay in relationships longer than we should because we feel comfortable. We're scared of the unknown. Maybe we just don't want to be alone. But I truly feel that it's better to be alone than to be with someone who isn't sure about you. So, King, take yourself out of the equation and we'll see what happens. Maybe you guys will end up together. Maybe just taking a step back will be really good. Who knows? Okay, so my next question is, I guess it's not really like an advice, because usually this is like an advice column. Someone just asked me, let's say you're a singer and we're going to perform at the Super Bowl and they had to pick 3 artists to perform with you. Who would be your 3 artists? Okay, that's like a light question. We could do that. I would pick Drake and Kanye because I saw them perform together and it was iconic. And I just feel like being on stage with Drake and Kanye is just, that's awesome. And I would have to have a female in there to kind of add that female energy. Beyonce, Drake, and Kanye. I feel that me performing with them 3 would be so surreal. I would probably pass out and it would go down in history. So I think that would be my ideal Trinity performance. Okay. So the last question is, hey, Leslie, I was wondering if you feel comfortable giving us an update about your work life. Were you able to find something that you really love after being laid off? Oh, I love that question. Of course, I feel comfortable with you guys. Honestly, I feel so comfortable talking to you guys. And obviously me getting laid off was such a, pivotal moment in my life of 2023. Obviously now I'm 2024. And I have not been able to secure a job that I feel like I would essentially love, right? But I honestly am, crazy as it sounds, I feel very calm in this season of my life. Thank God, you guys, that I, one, was saving money because your girl was trying to eat, pray, love in the summertime. She was trying to I'm telling you, my situation at work was so bad that I was racking up money so I can leave. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm also thankful that I have this business that I've been able to kind of help me during this time. And I think that, when I got laid off in that moment, even though I knew it was what was supposed to happen, it was hard, but I feel that over these last couple of months, it's been 3 months, I feel like I needed it for my soul because, one, I needed to recover from that experience of working in that toxic environment, and I needed to recover mentally, and I truly feel that in these last 3 months, I have been able to develop such a strong relationship with God, and I know that I almost feel like that was the purpose of me, letting go of that and entering this new phase of my life, is that I've been able to just rely on God so much. And it's really just taught me a lot. When I got laid off, I was someone that truly always was focusing on work. And I feel like that I also really attached my self-worth and my identity by the things that I was doing, my job title, how much I was making, the lifestyle I was living. And, I was attaching my worth through worldly things. And in this season, I just learned that when you attach your value to things of this world, those things can always be taken away. But when you attach your self-worth through Christ and through God, that's a relationship that you'll always be able to have. So now I feel so secure in who I am as an individual. I know that God has called on me to do really amazing things. And in this time, I've been able to start this new project. I've been able to focus on my business, even though I am laid off. I feel that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm in this waiting period, but I don't really feel like, I'm not really scared. Like, I'm not really nervous. I feel finally now, I can't say that, maybe that was the truth in the beginning, because obviously it took me healing. It took me reading the Bible. It took me understanding who I was, my value, to be able to sit here and say that. But like, now I know who I am in Christ, and I know my relationship with God, that it doesn't matter to me that happened. And, I'm continuing to pursue what God has called me to do. Like, even with this podcast, even with, my business, like, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, I can do this by myself. Like, not by myself, with God, obviously, but like, I feel a sense of relief, and I'm thankful that God took me out of that equation, and he knew that I needed to stop putting my value in outside things and start putting my value in who he says I am. And yeah, I'm just really excited for the future. I truly feel a really big momentum, even with like this podcast and my small business. I'm so thankful that, we've been having busy weeks, and slowly, like, it's getting better and better. And I just feel like learning how to trust God in the storm has been so transformative and has brought me so much peace, the peace that only God can fulfill. I think that I'm sure there's so many of us out there that have been laid off before. You're in a bad work environment or whatever the case may be. But I just want you to know that even if you are in a storm, or maybe, you're on the verge of quitting, or maybe you've also lost your job, don't lose sight in, the promises that God has made. Don't lose sight in, better days. I'm telling you guys, like, even in the storm, I feel a sense of calmness because I know who God is. So yeah, I'm actually really excited because Battle House has been picking up. Obviously, the podcast has been taking up a lot of my time. I told you guys on the last episode that, I really try to make sure that every single day I'm still working. Like, this podcast is literally like a full-time job when I'm not trying to figure out, ways to make it better. I'm like clipping, video. And I'm so thankful that I've had this time, because this time has allowed me to really work on the things that I actually love. I've been able to also grow community with my church and volunteer more. So it's just honestly been such an amazing experience. And I'm so grateful that I've had this time to connect with God and to just like relax. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, thank you. Those were the questions. Thank you guys for asking me those questions. I hope that, helped my guy out there who is in a situationship. And I wanted to talk to you guys about study abroad, because that truly, truly was a transformative 3 months for me. I was in Florence for 3 months, and your girl just decided that she was going to go out there. I knew absolutely nobody out there, and I was just like, you know what? This sounds like fun. I've always had like a travel bug. But obviously, like, I didn't grow up in a rich family. My parents have always done the best that they can. We grew up going to Zacatecas and, the rancho and, that type of stuff. But we were not, vacationing in Italy for summer. So I don't know what made me always be attracted to just seeing other parts of the world. And my parents have really just always pushed me to do the things that my heart is calling on me to do, right? So when I was in college, I remember like kind of coming across this study abroad experience. I was like, oh my gosh, like Florence, that sounds so cool. I was a comm major. They had a communications program in Florence for 3 months. And this was towards the end of my college career. And I remember, seeing a couple friends like that I knew from university go on this 3-month trip. And I was in awe. I was like, what? You can go study in another country and use those credits to graduate, and just seeing them live their life to the fullest. Like, all I've ever known is work, school. Like, what? You gonna travel to Europe and live your best Lizzie McGuire life? Like, it was really, everything to me. And I think that one of the things that's always helped me kind of make really big choices is, as crazy as it sounds, I've tried not to overthink these choices. Like, when I decided to study abroad, I think that there's so many of us that maybe could have thought of all the reasons why it wouldn't have worked. Like, I wasn't really making a lot of money. I was in college broke, living in a freaking apartment with like 3 other girls. I was, barely making money to eat. I used to have this segment called Cooking with Less for Less. It was like cooking with less for less. So I would go to the grocery store and buy like cheap food and make it. It was so funny. But I didn't have like money. Like I didn't grow up with money. I was working at In-N-Out. And for some reason I was like, I'm going to do this. Like I'm just going to sign up and see what happens. And you have to apply to be in the program. And I didn't really think much of it. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to apply and see what happens. Just because you apply doesn't mean that you have to go. So I think that looking at it in like a baby step really allowed me to take the next, big step and actually moving. And it was kind of scary. Like thinking about it now, I think when you're younger, you kind of have a little bit more courage to do certain things because, it's just a different type of energy. And when I saw the trip and I was like, okay, Florence, like I want to do it. I really want to, go out there. I was like, but I don't have anyone that I know that is going out there. Is that going to stop me? I kind of sat on it. And I remember like, I've always really been connected to God. Obviously it is way different now because I'm, I feel more, just have Jesus more invested in my heart. But I've always have prayed and just asked him for guidance. And I remember when I was about to study abroad, I was like, well, God, I'm gonna just leave it up to you. If I'm meant to go, like we'll figure it out, And I applied and I got in and I was like, okay, so I got in, now what? I didn't have a lot of money. I was kind of scared because I didn't know anyone that was going on the trip. It was a 3-month-long trip. I've never been away from my family for 3 months. I've never been away from my friends. Like I was just scared, but I wasn't at that time going to allow my fear to stop me from doing something that I wanted to do, and packed up my bags and I went to Florence. Like I had a dinner actually at the professor's house, Professor Fellow. He had like a welcoming dinner for all the people that were going to go on the trip. And I didn't really know anyone, like not anyone. So it was really nice because we got to meet other students from Cal State Fullerton that were actually going to go on the program. So I remember I was like, all right, cool. Like, hopefully I click with some of these girls. Like, I don't know. We'll see. And we had dinner at his house. And then after that, I kind of just was like, well, I got accepted. Like, I'm going to go. And then shout out to financial aid. Like, I used my financial aid to pretty much pay for me to be able to go over there and study for 3 months. I took only 4 classes. And I remember that I was going to work when I was out there, but then I was like, I'm not going to work when I'm in Florence. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. This is literally like my Lizzie McGuire moment, like where she's in Rome and she goes, like, I was this close, you guys, to getting a job. And I'm so happy that I didn't, because I had really all the time in the world to just explore and just visit different cities and different countries. And it was so impactful. I almost want to say that studying abroad was just as impactful as my years in college. Like, truly, those 3 months were just as impactful as my, 4 or 5 years that I was in college. Because what happens when you travel to different parts of the world and you're there, you're uncomfortable, you're living in a different city, you don't know the language, you're by yourself, you get put in a really uncomfortable position. But when you're in an uncomfortable position, you grow and you become stronger because of it. Like, obviously, I was, really worried that I was going to be away from my family for so long, but there was something about being in a different country and seeing the way people live that made me hungry for a better life. Like, I think that for sure our culture here in America is so centered around working, and I know that that's not a bad thing at all. Obviously, I take great pride in working so much, but when you visit other parts of the world, you realize the priorities are a little different, and I almost feel like different in a good way. They appreciate life more. It's more robust. They're sitting around the table having 4 or 5 hour dinners. Like, it's just a different vibe. And I remember packing my stuff the night before when I lived in, I went back to my apartment where my parents were at, and I was like, I'm just packing all my stuff. And I'm like, oh, I guess, I don't even think it hit me at that time that I was actually going until I was on the plane. It didn't hit me that I was going to be away from my family for 3 months until I was sitting in the plane like, oh my God, I'm leaving, but I lived with 3 amazing girls, Ariana, Nicole, and Skylar. We had the amazing, I feel like our apartment was the best apartment out of all the apartments, because it's crazy, because Florence is actually a really great place to study abroad. If anyone is, interested in studying abroad, I know I have a lot of girls in college that listen to my podcast, and Florence is for sure one of the best places to study abroad. The city itself is so safe. You know, it's big, but it's not too big where you feel like overwhelmed. There's a lot of students there. It has a really nice nightlife. You know, there's a lot of great restaurants. There's a lot of culture. It's just such an amazing city to study abroad. I was there for 3 months. Our apartment was a 2-bedroom apartment, you know, with our little beds, literally a 5-minute walk from the Duomo, which is like the biggest massive cathedral that they have there in Florence. It sticks out like a sore thumb. I remember after the 14-hour flight, you know, we're there in the apartment. I'm looking at everything for the first time. I'm like, dang, like I actually made it. Like this Mexican girl from the hood, like this Mexican girl from, you know, the valley that lived on Hatteras, that's lived in an apartment, you know, that maybe doesn't have that much money. Like I was able to make it by the grace of God. And, you know, this might not be the best advice to you guys, but I didn't have money saved up. Your girl got a Bank of America credit card. Boom, boom. This is going to be my travel credit card for the next 3 months. I think I spent in 3 months, which I don't think is that bad, was around $5,000 for just like the food, all the travel. Because when you're in Europe, it's so nice that you're able to jump around and, you know, visit different countries because everything is so close. I think I went to like 9, 10 different countries, countless different cities. So that included all of that, all the travel for that, all the plane tickets, you know, all the eating out, all the just everything that came with going to Europe. Cause obviously like, I'm not going to go to Florence and not live it up, live my best life. Like, so I was already like, okay, it is what it is. So I took my little Bank of America credit card, swipe, and it was amazing. Like it really was. I think that, you know, it showed me that there's more to life than just my bubble. Cause I, you know, obviously I didn't really do much traveling as, you know, a young adult. I didn't, you know, again, like my family did the best that they could. And, you know, I'm so grateful for everything that they have taught me. And really because of them, they've pushed me to always do the things that I thought I couldn't do. Like, you know, when I talked to my parents about studying abroad, they were like, yeah, like you should do it. You know, not, oh, well, we don't have the money for that. Oh, whatever. They're like, you know, you should do it. We'll figure it out. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but just having like supportive parents like that was really great, really amazing. And I feel like because of their support, I was able to do a lot of amazing things like study abroad. I also remember the first day that I was in Florence, I found 20 euro on the floor. And I thought that was a really good sign that I found 20 euro on the floor the first day. But I want to read you guys an excerpt. Is that what you call it? An expert from my journal. So when I started study abroad, shout out to Ariana because she's the one that put me onto this. That is when I began my journaling, I guess, life. I don't do it every single day, but I definitely picked up that habit from studying abroad. And I was like, you know what? This is actually something that I want to remember for the rest of my life. These experiences, you know, being able to see different parts of the world. I want to keep this with me forever. And, I got my first journal in which I would just write like everything that was on my mind and all the things that I was seeing, all the experiences that I was having. And I want to read you guys this excerpt from November 9th, 2018. So this is 6 years ago. Okay, I wrote this November 9th. This was on a Friday. I'm only going to read you a little part, you guys. I've always been an emotional queen. I wrote, today is one of those days that I hope stays vividly buried in my memory forever. It's our second day exploring Lucerne, Swiss, and just when I thought I've seen it all, my breath is taken away once again. We climbed 30 minutes up a mountain to see a view that looks out of this world. It was as if we'd been lifted to a godly planet where everything makes sense and beauty just is. We reached the top and I cried tears of joy. In this moment, I felt the presence of something greater. The vast mountains covered in snow that stretched beyond the eye, the beautiful water running its way through the land with fog rolling over it like a great big wave. I was above the clouds and I could feel God in every corner. I could see the beauty he created. It was a high unlike anything else. All I can do is say thanks that my eyes got to experience such beauty. And I remember this day still. This is like for sure top moment of my life. Like for sure one of the top 5 moments of my life is when I went to Switzerland, you guys. When you immerse yourself in the world, I think it's the perfect place to experience God because you feel his creation, you feel his energy. Like when you're on top of a mountain, like when you're in the middle of a forest and you see the big giant trees, like to me, I'm in such awe. And I remember when I went to Switzerland, one, which was also one of the most expensive places that I've ever been to. I didn't know it was that expensive to visit Switzerland. Plus the food to me wasn't that great. But anyways, that's another side story. It was so beautiful. Like I was just in awe. And that's why like ever since then, like I've just had a really big inclination to just want to know more of the world. Cause I had like in those 3 months, I had never been happier. Like literally those 3 months of just going to school, visiting new countries. Like thank God for that experience because it taught me that there's so much more to the world than, our bubble. And if we have the, fortune to like go and see those places, like we definitely should, because I think that sometimes we get scared, because, financial reasons or whatever, but it's like, dude, like we are here on this planet for only a short amount of time. The ride is so short and it is so amazing that we get all these different cultures, all these different like countries that we get to go visit. So that's always been like such a big goal of mine is to just honestly do like the whole eat, pray, love situation, spend, 6 months out of my life, like traveling just with Richard and just experiencing different cultures. And he actually came to visit me, you guys. That's when you know he loves you. It was for the Thanksgiving break. Richard literally came to Florence, 15-hour, 13-hour flight, whatever it is. Like I don't even know how he did it at that time because we were both working at In-N-Out. And it's so crazy because like, I remember I was watching this really scary show called The Haunting on Hill House. I don't know why I watched that show, you guys. I'm such a scaredy cat. I don't watch scary movies. I don't do the scary stuff like anymore. Or I don't know why I watched it. I think it's because it actually really had a good plot. So anyways, I watched the movie and this was during Thanksgiving break. So pretty much during any opportunity that we can, like we were always leaving Florence. Like we would stay a couple of weekends for sure. But when we had, opportunity, we would go to the, Netherlands. We would go here, go to Switzerland. We would visit different parts of Italy. We were on the Amalfi Coast. Like your girl was just out living her best life. And to all my roommates at that time, we're going to go to London. So we had planned this like big ol' vacation, like a 10-day like holiday type thing for Thanksgiving. And they were all leaving to England. So I was going to stay in the apartment by myself and Richard was going to visit or come the next day. So I was going to be in the apartment by myself for a whole night. And we were going to meet them up in Amsterdam. So they left. Your girl was so scared to sleep alone because of this scary show that I watched that I literally had to get the fire extinguisher from our apartment, put it in front of my door, and I did not sleep one bit that entire night, like because of this scary ass show that I watched. Yeah, that was wild. But really just having that experience for sure taught me so much. And if you guys have the opportunity to visit any parts of the world, like sometimes we need to not think of how, I know sometimes we're like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I think it's in our nature to just start second guessing ourselves and start, putting limitations on, our life. But really anything is possible. Like if you have an inclination to go visit a part of the world, like that inclination means that you can go and do it, that we have that opportunity. Like maybe you're going to put it on a credit card. Maybe that's not the best advice that I'm going to give you guys, but you get to see the world. And I just feel that experience when I came back to the United States, I was like, okay, like we work so much here. Not only do we work so much here, but I feel that we don't really value, maybe the aspect that we just get to live life, because we're so focused on the next thing. We're so focused on, getting ahead career-wise. And we kind of miss the life that's happening right in front of our face. Like when you go to Europe, when you're in Florence, they're having their 3-4 hour dinners with each other. They're conversating. I also thought it was crazy that they're not really getting drunk. Like when I was out there, you would see the Americans that were there studying abroad. They were the ones that were always super intoxicated, super belligerent. And they were just, sipping on their wine, having conversation. It was just a different lifestyle that I was like, dang, like this is crazy. Like I need to move out here to Florence. They have everything figured out, like even just the food, like the way that they would just go to the we would go to the grocery store like every single day, get our groceries for the day or like, for the next 2 days. We weren't like stocking up all the groceries like you do at Costco, getting like 35 eggs and all that kind of stuff. No. It wasn't anything like that. But that honestly, I know for a lot of us, like we probably have had that inclination of like wanting to go travel and maybe never taking that step to actually do it. I feel like for sure something that has helped me in taking these big leaps and taking these big risks is, again, like just that reminder that we truly only get this one life that we get to live. And I know, we do have our responsibilities that we have to kind of like, hey, I got to work, I got to do this, I got to do that. But we also are responsible for our life, and it's also our duty to live our life, like to have a fun life, to explore, to have adventure. Like life is not just all about work. Like eventually you're going to get to the point where you're like 60 years old, you look back and you're like, all you did was work. Like, all you did was sacrifice, and you didn't get to experience all the world has to offer. And this is not a path to like go ahead and be lazy, but I definitely like would suggest that if you have, some time off, or like you have an inclination, like take that first step. I know AIFS was the organization that I went with, but like EF Tours is also a really great program where they actually have, travel programs for young adults. I think it's like age like 18 to 30, where even if you're not like in school, where they have like, okay, 10, 15 day trip to, any place in Europe, it's this amount of money, and they kind of plan everything out for you. That's another really great like way to kind of see different parts of the world. And what else? AIFS was the one I did. I know there's so many programs like within college. Like when you're in college, it's obviously a lot easier to take these, 3 months, 6 months off to travel the world. But I don't think it's impossible as an adult. When I came back from Europe, I vividly remember sitting with Richard. When I came back, it was like one of the first weeks that I came back from, Europe. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm back in the United States. Like, hey, like, it was a culture shock for sure. I was like, got to get back to work, got to get back to the grind. But I felt just like a renewed energy, a renewed spirit, that I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna start working so I can eventually be able to take my 3-6 months, whatever off, so I can travel and do this again. Because like having the extended period of time, I feel like allows you to really get immersed into a culture. Like being in Florence for 3 months allowed me to like develop a routine. Like I knew where I like to get my cappuccinos. Like I knew, where I like to get like my food, and where I would walk. Like I developed like a routine where Florence started to feel like my home. Like I didn't think that I was going to have the experience that I had. I thought I was going to like it, but I didn't think I was going to like love it like that. Like I didn't even want to come home after the 3 months. Even though I miss my family, like I just felt so alive being able to visit different parts of the world and just see the different culture and just experience, all that the world has to offer. Like the world is so much bigger than just like our bubble, our LA, our Orange County, our San Diego, or whatever. Like there's a whole world out there. And, I wasn't traveling too like on some 5-star hotel type vibe. Like we were traveling, like, staying in hostels, like eating, maybe making dinner every night. Like obviously I definitely enjoyed here and there going out to nice restaurants, but like a lot of the travel, like we stayed in hostels. We would like, obviously share a bunch of meals, and it was just a nice experience. And, I remember just being out there, and I couldn't believe that I had, gotten the chance to do what my parents never did. Like they sacrificed so much. My parents had me at such a young age. My mom was 16 when she had me. My dad was, 17. And I just remember being out there and just like thinking like, I want to bring my parents one day. Like I want to experience these parts of the world with like my parents who've given me so much. Like, and it makes you hungry for life when you see other areas. Like you get hungry to know more, to experience more. And then you start to fill your cup with just everything. Like it's an amazing experience. And I'm for sure would recommend anyone, if you're out there, definitely do your Eat, Pray, Love. If you haven't watched that movie, she pretty much does like a 3-month tour where she's like visiting like all these different areas, and it helps feed the soul. Like it feeds your soul. But yeah, so I had came back from United States. I came back to the United States, and I told Richard that, hey, like this is when I knew like he was the one for me. I was like, hey, like, I just got back from this amazing experience. He went out there, he visited me. So I'm glad that we had like our 10-day like romantic little honeymoon. We were like in Amsterdam. We went to Florence. We like did the whole spa thing. We went to Venice. Like we just went all around. And when I came back, I told him I want to do this again before I have children. Like I want to do Eat, Pray, Love 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I need this again for my soul. And he said, okay, like we'll do it. And I was like, all right, we're going to do this. So when we had that conversation, the whole last like 5-6 years have been leading up to like us being able to take this like super major big trip. Obviously, you know, we don't know what the future has in store. Like I feel, I was so focused on that for so long, but I'm super open to whatever God has in store for me now. And, we've talked about it a lot. Before I got laid off, I was saving money because we had this whole trip, you guys, planned that the summer of 2024, I think it was either 2024 or 2025, we were going to get all the money that we had saved up and probably do the opposite of what everyone's doing. Everyone's getting married, buying a house. We were going to move, like we were going to spend 3 months in like backpacking or like not backpacking, but like living in different countries, literally doing the whole eat, pray, love thing. And he had agreed. He was like, okay, we had, agreed back then. And then as the year started progressing, we were like, all right, let's actually figure out how we're going to do this. So I started saving like a lot of my money. I was like, okay, I'm going to, go ahead and try to figure out how I can do this again for my soul. And, obviously right now I feel like we're switching up the plans a little bit. Right now our main focus is for sure to get married. So we're probably not going to be going on no eat, pray, love trip soon, but hey, it's possible. I truly feel like it's possible if you have that inclination, and you don't have to be in college to have that. I follow so many people. Like when I want to do something, I try to go and see how are these people doing it. People make money by traveling, by starting blogs, by, just learning photography and visiting different parts of the world. Like now we have so much opportunity to do business remote that like you can go to different countries, make a living. And like, there's this one person that I follow that I'm going to actually give you guys her Instagram because her and her boyfriend were living corporate jobs and they saved up money for like 6 months to a year. And then they took a whole year off and just traveled, and they do budget traveling. So they're not staying on like some crazy, expensive hotel. They're like budget traveling, making sure that they're eating, like according to their budget. And then because of that and them documenting their life, they were able to make like a living off of just documenting their travel experiences, different ways that they were saving while traveling abroad. So when I was interested in doing this, and when me and Richard were trying to take this seriously, I was making sure that a lot of like the content that I was consuming, I was trying to figure out how people were doing this. So if you guys have an inclination to, maybe I need to take 3 months off and do my eat, pray, love, like start going on Instagram. There's people out there that have been able to make this a reality, and you can take 3 months off of your life and pick up again, and you'll be okay. Like you could, if you have a desire to take 6 months off of your life and pick up again, that'll be okay too. Like you don't have to follow everyone's plan and routine. Just because everyone does it this certain way, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be like that for you. There's no one way to live life. And I feel like that's my biggest takeaway from just being able to experience different parts of the world and travel, is that everyone's life looks different, and the life that you envision for yourself is possible. Anyways, I really hope that you guys enjoyed my study abroad episode. If I can offer you guys any more resources, I'm telling you guys, I put that on a credit card. Probably not the best advice, but luckily that's all paid off now. AIFS was a organization that I used to go to Florence. I use my financial aid. Before that, there's definitely, where there's a will, there's a way. Before I had gotten laid off, I was saving about $1,000 a month. My goal was to save about $25,000 to $30,000 so I can go and, live my best life. You have that inclination. I'm telling you guys, it's possible. You can do it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And yeah, thank you guys again for tuning into another episode of Good Regardless. I appreciate you guys so much. So much. Thank you guys. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.